Hello Busy Linguists, welcome back to my channel, and today I am here in Berlin with a special guest. This is Gabriel.
Hi.
And he's from Sprachheld, and Gabriel is also a polyglot. And today he's going to give you guys his top 5 best tips, or rather the top 5 mistakes that people make and how not to make them. So we're going to get started with point number 1. What is the top number 1 mistake you think that people always make when learning a language?
I think one of the biggest mistakes is not having enough contact with the language. In order to learn a language, you have to be exposed to it all the time. You have to listen to it, you have to speak it, you have to read it, you have to write it. Being exposed to it all the time is what really brings the results. And most learners, or many language learners, think that they can learn a language by going to a language course for an hour a week or doing a little bit of homework. But that's not how it works. You have to be exposed to language all the time, you have to speak it all the time, and the best would be to do it daily, even if it's only a few minutes. And if you do this, then you will learn a language much quicker than if you just do it a little bit over the course of a week.
Exactly. It's like if you put in 50% of the effort, you've got to expect 50% of the results. And like, having yourself immersed in a language is actually really simple. You can even do something like change your phone. That's what I always do. I change my phone and automatically you learn things like the days of the week, months of the year, numbers, just words and vocabulary that you just need for daily life.
How to set your phone. Those are really important words, right?
They are. Well, if someone sends you a message, you learn what a message is.
That's true.
Exactly. Anyway, so what would you say is the next mistake that people make?
I think most language learners have no plan. They just learn whatever comes their way. They go to a course and then they find a brand new app and then they try this out and then they try a book. So they try everything at the same time, but nothing really. Yeah. And then they think this doesn't work, but you actually have to exhaust something. You have to exhaust a method. You have to have a plan, you have to have a structure, and so it's important to actually make yourself a plan, to think what goals do you want to achieve, and then make a plan how to achieve those goals, because if you don't have a plan, how are you ever going to get
you never know. Yeah, you don't know where you're going. Like, you might achieve a goal that you think you have, but you'll never know because you don't know what the goal is. Yeah. And it also leads to confusion. I can speak from experience. This is my mistake that I made with Russian. I was like, yeah, I'm gonna be really passive how I learn. So I tried some apps, then I had a book, then I had another course book, and it was only really until I had a plan and was like, okay, I actually want to just learn about this topic and I'm gonna focus on it. That's where I saw the most results.
Yeah, and it's like we talked earlier about this. Learning a language, there's so many things to a language. You can learn about philosophy, you can learn about golf, you can learn about so many topics, and until you really know all of it, it doesn't really make sense to learn all of it at the same time, because you will know everything a little bit, but you won't be able to speak about any topic in depth. So you should focus on specific topics. For instance, if you like to go to the beach, if you learn the language to speak to other people that are at the beach, then that's the topics and that's the words you should learn, and not how to conduct a business meeting. Or
Exactly. All of that you can learn as well. You can learn everything, but it takes time, and it's just about finding out what is most relevant to you right now and just taking it step by step.
Yeah, that's true.
Excellent. And what is the third point?
I think most language learners focus too much on grammar and learning words. And grammar and learning words is important, but in the end that's not what gives you the possibility to understand a language and to speak a language. It's just supporting everything. In the end what you have to practice is speaking and listening, and if you want to learn writing and reading, then that as well. You have to use the language and you have to be exposed to the language, and words help to improve that building of your language, and grammar helps you to speak correctly, but it shouldn't be your focus. If you're learning 80% of the time grammar and words, you're doing something wrong.
Yeah, exactly. You actually gave a really good example of this on your website, and you said it's kind of like swimming. It's like you can learn all the theory behind swimming, but you're never really going to know how to swim until you jump in the water and actually use everything that you learned. And that's kind of the same thing is,
And it's so obvious with sports. For instance, nobody would ever start learning football by going to a theory classroom and finding out what the strategies behind it. You learn football by playing it, and it's the same with languages.
Yeah, exactly right. And moving on from that, what would you say is the next point?
I think it's learning irregularly. We already spoke about this in the first point. You can't expect results if you set a certain time of the week for language learning. You have to learn regularly. You have to be exposed to language all the time. You have to be in contact with the language all the time. That's why you learn so quickly when you're abroad, because you're exposed to language all the time.
Consistency as well, consistency. It's like I found when I was in Germany for the very, very first time, and this is a really good tip for you guys as well, I would literally write everything down. Like, I would sit in a cafe and it was just that want to know as much as I could or to get as much out of the experience. I would be sitting on my phone and just take notes and be like, oh, okay, she just said this. And of course, like it wasn't 100% of the time correct what I wrote, because, you know, some words I wasn't sure of. But that's just really like, it's like having a free language class. You're just surrounded by the language.
Yeah, so that's why it's great to be abroad, but you don't have to be abroad to learn a language. You can create this immersive experience also in your own city. It works in Berlin, it works perfectly, obviously. But with the internet, you're able to be in touch with the language, in contact with the language all the time.
It's also about being creative. I mean, you can, you know, what I used to do when I was still in Australia and I learned German, I would have German books. I would go to the bookstore and get German books. Or I would say I was cooking something, instead of looking up the recipe in English, I would look it up in German. And that's how I learned a lot of words for everyday life.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Awesome.
And what do you think is the final mistake that people make?
I believe it's forcing yourself to learn a language. If you want to learn a language, you have to have a good reason to learn it. And if you're forcing yourself, if you're thinking, oh no, today I have to learn the language again, this might work for a few weeks, but motivation will drop pretty quickly, and then it's impossible. Like at some point you're just, okay, it's not worth it to do this. So if you force yourself by learning with content that you don't really like, and learning grammar is a very good example of that. Most people don't like grammar, and if you force yourself to learn grammar, then you will lose motivation really quickly. So you should rather find material that you like, that you enjoy reading, that you enjoy listening. You should find yourself people that you like speaking to or that you like to hang out with, and then you won't lose motivation as quickly as you will if you just force yourself all the time to learn that language.
And it's really, really important that you find a reason that's really the right one for you, not what someone else has told you, not the fact that you're going to get, you know, all these job opportunities, because that's great and everything. But if that's not really something that motivates you, you're never going to learn it. It could be, you know, maybe you're in love with someone from another country and you want to... Exactly, this always works. Or it could be like that you're following someone on Instagram, on YouTube, and you really want to understand what they're saying in their videos. Like me or like Gabriel. And yeah, it's just things like that as well. If you really are passionate about music in another country, then that's a really good reason as well. It doesn't have to be like rational. It's just what is the right thing for you, what feels right for you. And I think this is also probably one of the biggest issues in like the schooling system, that people aren't asked, you know, what are you interested in? It's kind of, this is our curriculum, this is what you're going to learn, and it might not even be useful.
Yeah, exactly.
Exactly. Well, thank you very much, Gabriel. I hope you guys found his tips helpful. I know I learned something now. And yeah, I will leave all of his social media and links below. Check it out. Check out Sprachheld as well, and to find out more about that. And otherwise, I will see you guys in my next video.
Bye bye.